Hi everyone and welcome to my Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1 analysis. It just dropped on Thursday and I thought I'd just give my honest thoughts and try and analyse some key scenes. Now before I start this, I just wanted to say there will be spoilers in this discussion, so fair warning, if you don't want to get spoiled, there will be major spoilers in this discussion. So the way this season kicks off is it's building up to the Saikai Taikai, which is the best of the best. And the season starts off pretty simple with the three senseis being Chosen, Johnny and Daniel, who are teaching Miyagi-Fang, while Kreese is in South Korea teaching a brand new wave of Cobra Kai students alongside Sensei Kim, and it's revealed Sensei Kim Sung-young, who is her grandfather, is still alive. So the first point I wanted to touch on here is Kreese being sent to fight a cobra in the cave. So we see Kreese kill a hallucination of Johnny Lawrence, which signifies that he's shedding his weakness. One thing which I found particularly interesting is when Sensei Kim is speaking with her grandfather, she mentions that Kreese was sent to die, and he says, "No, I sent him to face death." This is a really interesting point because death is something that Kreese has obviously faced before, and he actually manages to beat the test and prove himself worthy. It does give us some insight into how far Master Kim is willing to go, and kind of gives more reasoning for why Kreese is the way that he is. The next point I wanted to discuss is Brooks is back. So if you don't remember who Brooks is, I don't blame you, but he was a minor antagonist in seasons 1 and 3 before Hawk ultimately unleashed his wrath on him in season 3 episode 6. And while Kyla has been involved in the show quite a bit since, there's been a bit of mystery as to what happened to Brooks. I will admit, not knowing what he looked like or what happened after Hawk beat him down made it much more sinister. However, it was really refreshing to see that he's actually okay now and pretty much just a normal guy. Him and Kyla seem to have both learned their lessons, and while Kyla jokes with Miguel about the past, it's good to see that not only can these guys get along, but they actually fight alongside each other and have each other's backs now, which is cool to see. Speaking of Miguel, actually, he had it pretty rough this season, didn't he? So he didn't get into Stanford, which I assume is a really good college in America. If there's any Americans watching this, then please do let me know, as I'm clearly British, so I don't really know. There was a scene in episode 5 where him and Robbie get pretty heated in the build-up to their fight. Notice how in this scene Miguel is actually trying to defuse the situation. He ultimately knows that him and Robbie can't be at each other's throats again, especially with a new baby on the way. And when Robbie is saying, like, "You think I don't need this?" I don't think he's trying to start a fight. I think he genuinely just thinks Miguel doesn't understand. For Miguel, sure, he doesn't have the best financial situation, but Robbie knows that Miguel is overall a good kid. He sticks in school and always tries his best to maintain his good boy reputation. And winning the All Valley also gave him that advantage of also being a badass and being quite respected within the school. Whereas Robbie feels as like if karate doesn't work out, he has nothing else, because he got a bad reputation from the fight in season 2 and feels like the Saikai Taikai is his one shot at putting everything right and putting himself out there. I've noticed that Robbie's very similar to Johnny in the sense that he always feels like he can't do anything right and feels like he lets people down, when in reality his absence of a proper childhood growing up has likely led to him being easily influenced into doing some bad things in the past, whether that's through Kreese or Silver. But he definitely feels bad for what's happened to Kenny in the past. When the fight between Miguel and Robbie to decide who's going to captain the Saikai Taikai ends, Miguel actually loses, and you see Robbie to go over and say, "No hard feelings," and Miguel's like, "Nah man, you're good." But you can tell in his eyes this hurt Miguel, and my theory is he knows he can beat Robbie. He's done it before, multiple times. So he's probably just frustrated that he couldn't on the day. And I've seen a lot of people get mad about this, but I personally like it. Miguel's a great martial artist who lost a very close fight with Robbie, who is arguably the second best in the whole show. If Miguel had lost to Mitch or Bird easily, I would understand. But this was a close matchup, and as Johnny has proven, just because someone wins on points doesn't mean they beat you every time. Another frustration people have is with Hawk. So, Hawk for me is an interesting one because, on one hand, it's annoying to see Dimitri get so pressed because of a college application. Like, I understand Hawk probably should have told him sooner, and definitely not before a challenge where they'd be going against each other. He should have known that that would have put him in a bad spot. But still, people should remember Hawk only really lost because he showed mercy to Dimitri. Despite the argument, he didn't want to hurt his friend again, whereas Dimitri's seen this as an opportunity to get back at him for everything, really, since he's felt like the underdog and felt very lucky in the past. Despite all this, I doubt that him and Hawk will fall out forever, and I'm sure that they'll apologise during or after the Saikai Taikai. Speaking of which, the last key point that I wanted to discuss is the Saikai Taikai itself. So, major spoilers for part 1. I know I've discussed some spoilers already, but this is probably the biggest plot twist in the whole show so far. It's revealed that Tori is actually working with Kreese and fighting for Cobra Kai. A lot of fans seem to be really mad at this, and I get it. It kind of does feel like we're back at square one with her, but there's also some points to consider. So, firstly, we learn that her mother died, and obviously she's understandably very upset, but she still does show up to training ready to fight Sam to captain the Saikai Taikai the same way that Miguel and Robbie did, as all the senseis agreed that they were the 4 best students. However, Amanda gets a call from the medical centre and tells Daniel to call off the fight, which he then does, much to the frustration of Johnny. Tori is also obviously very frustrated and storms off. Now, to get both sides of this, Tori is likely annoyed because she wasn't given a chance to prove herself due to the circumstances that weren't in her control ultimately. She feels like Sam gets special treatment from her parents to get her picked, and from her perspective, Daniel stopping the fight before she could win is, or at least have a chance to win, is proving her point. Now, I do think there is a bias with Sam from Daniel, which seems obvious, like they are father and daughter, but I do think there was some genuine concern that Tori was fighting with too much anger and emotion, and that she was going to seriously hurt Sam, whether on purpose or not. Johnny and Daniel then get into a massive argument, and this scene is honestly one of my favourite in the entire show, because Johnny genuinely is furious, and that holds so much weight to this scene. Sure, Daniel and Johnny have fought over way lesser, but when Daniel hits Johnny and Johnny doesn't retaliate but just says he's done, this just shows how, despite trying not to be a hothead and almost calming down in a sense due to obviously becoming a father for the second time, he doesn't want to mess that up or worry Carmen. And he really does think Daniel is impossible to work with. And he genuinely can't understand why he stopped the fight with Tori, because he knows what it's like to lose a parent, and he probably agrees that Tori hasn't had a fair chance at showing her skills. So essentially he blames Daniel for losing one of their best students. And then when it cuts to the Saikai Taikai a couple minutes later, you see the disappointment and sort of regret on their faces when Tori is revealed to have joined Cobra Kai again. Now, we do see earlier in the episode she's clearly annoyed with Kreese and wants nothing to do with him, but Kreese is a very smart man and a very good manipulator, and he reminds Tori that she will always be second favourite to Sam, which isn't actually wrong. He's kind of right in what he's saying there, in that LaRusso will always favour his daughter no matter what, and from her perspective, that's what she sees. That's what she's seen when LaRusso told her to hold back and stop the fight. It's almost like she thinks that Daniel doesn't really believe in her, Kind of Johnny as well, but more so Daniel. She knows that Johnny knows how good she is. Finally, the Saikai Taikai is looking like it's taking place in part 2. Now, I think there's a couple of possibilities for where this can go. Miyagi Fang seem so dead set that they will win and haven't really considered any other possibilities. And maybe it is that straightforward, but given that there are still 10 episodes left, which is usually a full season, I doubt that it will be as simple as Robbie gets a clean sweep. So either something happens with Kwon getting disqualified, which wouldn't surprise me given how skillful yet ruthless he's been shown to be. I mean, he pretty much beat up 3 of his own friends, or, well, fellow students. And he knew the Saikai Taikai was coming up and he still chose to go down that route with them, to discipline them and show that he is that guy. And the Saikai Taikai might end with a controversial decision, or they're actually tricking us, and it actually isn't in episode 6 at all. So what we might get is we might get some flashbacks, a bit of backstory to flesh out the story as some kind of filler episodes leading up to it from episodes 6 to 9. So this could be more information about Kwon, where he's from, and, you know, his earlier training. Or even Miyagi, as we've learned quite a lot of things about him that haven't really been explained, so we could get some flashbacks. And then episode 10 could be where it really kicks off, and then it ends on another cliffhanger, which I don't doubt is going to happen, because that's the way these 3-part things work. There's always going to be a cliffhanger at the end of each part. I honestly think it's more likely to happen in episode 6, since we've seen some brief clips of it in some new footage. I'm not entirely sure where this leaked interview came from, but if you look hard enough, you will find it on YouTube. Just type in Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2 preview or leaks. However, we also learn that Miyagi has a Saikai Taikai headband, which is covered in blood. So my theory is that he didn't tell Daniel this because he knows how eager Daniel would have been and how he would have wanted to enter, and maybe he thought even Daniel wasn't ready for this. So this makes me think he knows something that we don't know about this tournament. I don't think Barnes was lying when he said there was horror stories. I think he was exaggerating when he said people have died. Hopefully, anyway. But when he said there's horror stories, I think it actually might be really dangerous, and I just hope Robbie or anyone from Miyagi Fang doesn't get seriously injured, which I think could be the route they go down. I don't think Miguel's going to get injured again because he's been through enough. But Robbie could possibly get injured, and then maybe we see Miguel take over. Anyways, that's been my analysis from Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1. If my voice sounds a little bit shaky, it's because this is my first YouTube video. I haven't really learned how to pitch yet, or how to learn my lines, apparently. So if I've stuttered a little bit, I apologise, but hopefully, if anyone's watching this, you've enjoyed the video. I can't wait for part 2. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.